Alright, response video to Pyrrho, but it's really not to Pyrrho, it's to anybody who might be deluded or deceived by the grotesque propaganda and nonsense that he's uttered in his video. Disgusting video. Just such a cheat. I'm just so sick of these cheaters. Alright, for he starts off his video but with this appeal to authority. You know, him and all the other crop circle, quantum mechanical modern thinkers who have injected physics full of silicon, because the physics, breasts were very small. Physics had very small breasts, and so they had to shove a bunch of silicone inside of those breasts to make them really big and interesting, because physics was just too fucking boring. And they called it quantum theory. I mean, because quantum mechanics doesn't really do what they're saying it does. But just outrageous claims. So he starts off with this appeal to authority, like all him and the gang of physicists all believe in this new modern bullshit of multiverses and sparkly yellow unicorns, and that's a crock of shit right there. But even if it's true, who cares? I'm not going to ask the Pope to tell me who God is, and I'm not going to ask a bunch of physicists who might all be on some sort of LSD trip what the fucking truth about physics is. But they can't prove any of this crap. They can't demonstrate. They can't articulate any of it. So until you make an articulate proof, a logical proof of any of the claims you have made, you do nothing but fail. Veritas 48 has more evidence of his fucking God than you have of any actual randomness in the fucking universe. And that's a goddamn truth. You have no proof. Nothing. Alright, so let's go through this shit. I mean, it's like arguing crop circles. Yeah, crop circles prove there's aliens. That's what you're doing. You're coming up with some bullshit and then say, see, look at this bullshit. It just screams aliens. It screams randomness because I have a bullshit experiment. I have another bullshit experiment. We have these preposterous conclusions we drew based on the results of these experiments that don't illustrate a motherfucking thing because the experiment themselves is so fucking complicated there could be about 7 million explanations for your fucking results. God damn. Alright, wait, he did use these words. Quantum mechanic proves. Alright, and then talked about the non-existence of cause and effect, essentially. That it's not a deterministic universe, that no reasonable person can believe that anymore. That's his accusation. And it is complete. It is based on nothing. Huge, gigantic leaps of fucking faith in a goddamn fable. Nothing. Alright, so let's understand. So just for people who don't understand what this argument's about, okay? There's this theory, okay, that the smallest, tiniest bits of matter in the universe, energy, do things randomly. And if you're watching them, then they do something completely different because you don't like being watched. But anyway, that's a whole other theory. But yeah, that they don't have a cause and effect. That they're actually flying around in different universes, and they don't decide what to do until they finally reach their destination. Then they'll decide where they've been. So you go by where they land up, and then you decide later where they were. You see. All kinds of preposterous nonsense, okay? That they never actually are anywhere. They're only where they end up, or some kind of crap like that. So it's the smallest particles in the universe, right? Smallest bits of known bits. And so we can't see these bits, obviously. Okay, you understand, like when we sense something, we have to friggin' throw something at it, like a ton of light, and the light has to bounce back and we get an image. Alright, we have to do some material interaction with things to sense them. We have to materially interact. Alright, now how do you materially interact with the smallest thing in the universe? You have to materially interact with it with something at least as big as itself. So it's like me saying, I'm going to find out what Pyrrho's like, or who Pyrrho is, by throwing a Pyrrho at Pyrrho. Now, what would that tell me? Well, the results. Okay, well, the results will create maybe some guts and some heads and some mess. And I might be able to draw some broad conclusions like, well, 2 Pyrrhos weighed 278 pounds or whatever. So I guess 1 Pyrrho weighed, I might be able to figure that out. But it's going to be vague, and it's going to be mush, and it's going to be nonsense. I'm not going to learn any details. I'm just going to learn very big picture kind of stuff, fuzzy, foggy picture kind of stuff. And that's the quandary. Okay, so science has to deal with that quandary. Well, how do we deal with this energy quantum? That's why it's called quantum mechanics. How do we deal with this little kernel of energy, this little smallest kernel, if we can't detect it, we can't touch it, we can't interact with it? We have to have some way to know where it is and what it's doing, or we can't do all our fun math and stuff. And so the solution to the problem was to treat the particles in that big frame fuzzy way, to say, well, here's the probabilities, okay? We can see the rough idea of it. We do know where it lands, and we do know where it came from, and we know where the probable path would be to get there, okay? And so we can draw some we can make that broad statement that this is the realm, okay, that we'll draw the picture in. We'll draw it on this size piece of paper, and it won't go outside of this piece of paper, but it could be somewhere within this piece of paper because we just don't know. And that's what quantum mechanics does. It merely says, treat it like it's random. Treat it like the location is randomly, like 30% here or 20% here and 10% over there. Treat it like it's, there's some variability. But we're not saying it is. We're just saying let's treat it that way for the sake of doing the math. Period. That's all quantum mechanics says. So quantum mechanics is, as I've called it, is just error math. It's just saying let's account for all the possible errors in our prediction of where it is, and put all the possible errors into the math, and do the math. And then at the end, we'll know that this is still this little bit of error still might exist. Once we do all the calculations, the error will be minuscule because our probabilities are going to be fairly reliable, and the effects of these tiny bits of energy aren't going to have much effect on the very crude matter that we're dealing with. Like this timer doesn't just fail because of a quantum effect. But Pyrrho, in Pyrrho's world, if you go bowling and you throw a gutter ball, well, you can just say, damn, quantum effects, goddamn, they doubled up on me. 2 or 3 of those quantum effects and poop, I got a fucking gutter ball. Goddamn those quantum effects. I mean, no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, our brain is on a higher physical scale than the stuff running your computer. That software, and that stuff will work. It'll land people on the moon. It's so reliable. So this conversation is irrelevant to any notion of free will because our brain does not operate on quantum energy. And in the second argument here, it's still so our lives are still determined from the perspective that we're running on. Okay, just like the moon will circle the Earth, and it will not all of a sudden fly to Mars. That's just a fact. Okay, this scale of the universe is damn reliable. Billions and billions of years will happen, and it'll do exactly what it's supposed to do over and over and over again. The mechanics is rock solid. So this is irrelevant to our scope of the universe in the first place. And in the second place, he has no proof of randomness. And once again, quantum mechanics does not even make a statement about the existence of cause and effect. It merely states that we can't know, so we don't have the instruments to know, so let's just define it as best we can. Let's just do sloppy math. That's all it's saying. But it's not drawing the conclusion. It's saying let's treat it as random because we can't demonstrate it's not, because we can't fucking see it. So anyway, I don't know if I even have to finish this. But it's just so outrageous for him to talk like there can be no counter explanation for any of this nonsense, that he has this whole pile of experimental proofs and he doesn't have anything. I've provided explanations for when photons are released by molecules that could simply have to do with a timing cycle. And the two-slit experiment, again, I'm still going to argue until I see that experiment done another 5 or 6 different ways, changing the variables. We can't draw any conclusions whatsoever from that one, okay? Because I don't even know what these detectors are made out of, but when I've tried to look at a schematic of the detectors, I saw there was about 27 elements built into this detector itself. And so there's all kinds of room for all kinds of failure in even this ability to detect. So, I mean, that's nonsense right there. How do you detect a Pyrrho going through a door when you have to throw a Pyrrho at a Pyrrho? I mean, it's kind of silly. Isn't that notion a little bit fucking silly? God damn, people. So anyway, I'll play some of I got the second half loaded. This is my response to the first half of this video, which was just outrageous. So I assume the second half will be just as fucking bad. And I really don't want to do a 5-part video, but what the hell?
Futures based on just the inputs and no free will. Okay, that model. Okay, you can't use that because that kind of determinism failed in the lab. It failed.
Okay, so he's saying it failed in the lab. Now, he's not going to tell us, I don't